the start show at OCAD. Oh, sorry, OCAD U.
University. Yeah.
So, which is kind of my alma mater, I guess. No, I didn't graduate. But anyway, with an indie gaming showcase, I'm here with Benjamin, and you're one of the organizers of the event. If you just want to tell our viewers what's going on here and a little bit about it.
Sure. Well, as you say, it's called the Start Show, and the whole point of it is to showcase Toronto indie games, as well as indie games from other cities, across the world. And the main thing is that we wanted to show how much indie game development there is here in the city and abroad, but how much is located here in Toronto. We've just started a new game design program here at OCADU, and part of this is to get people interested in the idea and to realize that that's not a far-out idea. There's a ton of people in the city already making games and doing a pretty good job of it.
It's a game design program here?
Yes.
How come I did not know that?
I know. I'm co-teaching with Emma Westacott, who's the actual assistant professor who's heading it up. And we had it last year, and it's expanded a bit this year, and we're hoping to sort of, ramp it up. But part of that is getting awareness of the fact that people make indie games, and here in the city, a lot of people make indie games.
See, I took integrated media when I was here for 2 years, and I always was dicking around with the computer stuff, but I never actually, I guess it was like 10 years ago, so nobody was doing that kind of stuff back then.
Right.
I should have stuck with it.
Yeah, now we have the Digital Futures Initiative, the DFI, and that's sort of the wing of OCADU that's dealing with a bit more of the new media stuff and gamings and interactive media and whatnot.
They still all Macs in the labs?
Mostly, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously a PC guy, right?
So we have a bunch of indie game developers in Toronto showing off some of the games. If you want to maybe, what's some of your favorites on display?
Well, they're classics from people who are in Toronto, like MetaNet Software makes N+, and we've got that here. That's on XBLA, and we've got Sean McGrath. He's got a company called Left Square Bracket, Right Square Bracket, and he's got a game called Dyad, which is sort of like a messed up racing version of Tempest. It's really cool, and a game that he made, I think, at Toe Jam, which is an independent gaming, jamming spree, called A Game About Bouncing. That's really cool. Later, we're hopefully going to have a game by Messoff, who's a noted game developer, called Nidhogg. I don't know what it means or what it is, but it's a two-player dueling game. It's like a fencing game. It's very
some kind of Norse mythology connection. I looked it up.
I'm hoping with chandeliers and weird backgrounds, but it's always a crowd favorite. We're hoping to have a bunch of people jamming on it for the rest of the night. It's great.
Now, one of the things that comes up a lot when we talk about indie games, obviously we're at OCAD, is the whole games as art debate. The term people say art games, right. And it's like, I think it's, disingenuous to say certain games are art games and other games are not art games. Well, what's your feelings on that? Because, people always... there's a little bit of a nose up at the big titles, the Halos of the world that, well, those games can't be art. Maybe they're just bad art. I don't know.
No, I totally agree with you. Much the same that book and film exists in all different, levels for all different reasons. I don't think we should discount any of it. I myself play a ton of blockbuster games. I love Halo. I think Halo is art, even though a lot of people disagree. Maybe not when you're, playing online with a 13-year-old who swears too much, but I think that even in big studios, there's the potential for all that stuff. And it's not that we're suddenly declaring, hey, guess what? Games were never art before, but now that we're here, they are. That's not that at all. Anna Anthropy, who's an independent developer out of the States, made this statement on a interview before, where the art of games is often in the design of them and sort of what you manage to get out of a person or a player just through the creation of this, leading them in certain ways and level design that tricks them into thinking certain ways. So it's, half puzzle, half, gallery statement or whatnot. And so games have been art ever since they existed.
Now, I was talking to Jim McGinley, who's also a well-known game developer, about the idea in the art world, it's, since like Dadaism, the idea of appropriating found work, appropriating other people's work and recontextualizing it has become accepted, almost commonplace. Right. Yet I've always thought that if somebody was to take somebody's game, whether it be from a big publisher or from the guy who made it in his basement by himself, and then took the original material and then recontextualize it to say something else, there would be people with would be very unhappy with that. The sort of selection of the IP for in all levels of game development is so strong that do you find it's restrictive?
I do. I think that's sort of an issue of copyright in general, and the inherent issues with the way copyright has been reformed over the years to make it more difficult to do those sorts of things. But here in the indie space, we have some games that actually do that, whether their copyright owners know it or not. There's a website actually called Retro Sabotage, which takes Mario sprites, old things like that, and constructs extra little stories and weird subversions of those genres, and they're small little micro games, kind of like in a WarioWare title, but they just make you think about it, and it's quite great. Cactus, who's another noted game developer, has his Cactus Arcade 2 collection here, and one of the games is just a running loop of weird video game homages and subversions, and it's dizzying, but he's ripping off all this stuff, but you can never think that he was doing it for some sort of evil profit. It's obviously riffing on it for a specific reason. So that is going on, though. Yes, you're never going to see a PSP game published that is a complete ripoff of Mario for the purpose of doing so. Yeah.
So wrapping up, what's next for? This is going to be repeated. You're going to do this again somewhere else, maybe?
We're hoping to. I mean, we'd love to do this every year or every other year or something when it applies. The neat thing is right now is the best time to be in Toronto for indie games because we just ended the Start Show, or rather it ends tomorrow. And then in October during Nuit Blanche at the Tiff Bell Lightbox, we're going to have the Arcadian Renaissance, which is a series of arcade machines playing local indie games. So that's going on. So there's more stuff for people to see. And then in November we're going to have Gamer Camp, which is going to have presentations and whatnot from other local developers. So there's that going on. And we have the Hand-Eye Society, which has stuff about every 2 months. So there's stuff going on all the time. But for the Start Show, we'd like to make it, just that a start. We'd like to have it continue on and hopefully get students and people who aren't in this at all, getting involved in making games and going forward with that.
I just realized another question. I always think about questions at the very end. You're a bit of a Renaissance man yourself because we've already interviewed you. You're illustrator. You do web design, I believe.
I did.
And you're a graphic novelist, and you work in games. There seems to be sometimes a bit of a great divide in certain circles that people in one field don't want to touch the other field.
Right.
There's so many people in the comics business who should be helping out games people and vice versa. How do you think we can get that going more?
That's a really good question. I think one of the issues is that a lot of games development comes from programmers first, so they create their own art and they can do a lot of that on their own, so they don't need anyone. And from the artist's point of view, they often feel like they don't have a space. Maybe they're just a pair of hands to realize what somebody else has done. But that's not necessarily true. For instance, Jim Monroe has a game, a text adventure called Everybody Dies. And there's a local illustrator named Michael Cho.
We might have to, let's move over here for a second. You think it's going to be better if we move over here quickly? Wait. Okay, well, let's try. Let's continue this.
Yeah. There's a local illustrator named Michael Cho who illustrated all the pieces in the game, and so it was only with his commitment, I guess, and his involvement that it ever took the shape it did. So there's lots of opportunities for artists and other people to get in. I just don't think they're seeing it yet.
Well, thank you for talking to us. This is a pretty cool event, and it's good to be back and actually be in a building I haven't been in for more than 10 years. And we look forward to seeing what else happens in the Toronto indie gaming scene.
Great, thank you very much.